he can vouch for me, a lot of the locations have touchscreen and fancy stuff. You train the teachers on the fancy stuff, and they really don't want to use the fancy stuff. They just want to be able to present, and the kids see it. You know, you can do all kinds of zig and move. Not a lot of, unless art, you know, or something, we don't see any of that. So we actually, you know, we kind of were trying to look at like, you know, as far as budgeting forward, it's something that we can afford. You know, and I told him in layman's terms, if you took 33.33% of our teachers and had a number.
262 laptops.
And put that in a recurring cycle every year. In 3 years, you'd be cycling through everything and there'd be no magical tax increase or anything. But that's the number we would need, because my budget, whenever things changed, I used to have money in my budget where I was responsible for refreshing, which wasn't enough. But then they took that, and that actually.
We were always buying refurbished.
Yes.
The last, yeah.
And they took that and put it, and it just kind of dissipated, like it's gone. So if that makes any sense at all.
So you're saying that if we put $160,000 in the budget every year for teacher devices, that we would be able to not worry about?
It would be, we'd literally be able to just start replace, every year you would know, 33%, we would just start going in 3 years, it'd be through a cycle where everybody would be.
Well, why don't we ask for $250,000, and then you can also do the same with students as well?
Well, let's get to that, because.
Well, hold on, first off. So where are we on getting teacher devices, I guess is the point. We have approved $750,000 to be used to buy computers, so.
So technically speaking, 575 paid off the leases for the 662 teacher devices that we have. So we have, if that whole 750 goes to it, then we've still got, in my opinion, enough to buy the other 115,000 there to fill out the rest of the teachers, if that's what that's actually allotted for.
That's what we voted for.
That's what we voted for.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, we didn't have any, it was only for teachers' devices.
Yes.
That's what we voted.
That's correct. And see, and this is where we were talking earlier, I got confused.
Teachers' devices and projectors, whatever it needs to do.
Tools for the
teachers. Because remember, we put something in front of the county commission, and that was capital projects, and they voted to fund buses and to pay off the lease, and the other didn't get approved.
Can I go backwards on something? I'm sorry. You said something earlier, and I never thought of it. Clearly some different staff, teachers have different needs as far as the device. Are we taking that into account? Because frankly, is it not feasible to offer kind of a very inexpensive option for the teacher who says, hey, if I've got to have something, I need to do some basic things, and that's all I need is the basic. But there's other teachers that they're really kind of putting that device through the paces, and maybe they have an option for a better one.
Well,
is that an option?
My question is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, because I've been on a lot. Wouldn't your upper grade teachers need more things that their computers can do more than your elementary school?
So I've been a tech at Central High School, Mount Pleasant High School, and even elementary schools as low as Baker and Randolph Howe. They all put a PowerPoint up on the screen and run that PowerPoint. But some of them have 12 tabs open on their web browser that they click through all day long for attendance or videos or different things like that. So in the long run, a lot of them do. There might be pockets.
What about the art teacher? Remember the art teacher? We just had an art teacher at Central that says, listen, I'm trying with what you gave me. I'm not trying to be ungrateful, but I need more. So we actually found something that was affordable and fit it in because they did. Like, it was even validated. Like, look, what she's doing is too resource intensive. But it's usually not, it's not as great as what you think. I mean,
but you're talking, how much was the computer, the model you're talking to a teacher?
Well, I mean, it's
562?
562 without a touch screen.
562 is a basic model that will be most teams.
And it's education branded, it's not top seller, it's not,
So, I brought that up maybe for discussion later as we go. I just kind of, it may remember, I mean, that's not the day thing, but that may be as we move ahead, have more of a process for that.
Well, the thing is, if we're going to order the teacher devices and have them in here for August,
yes.
then we need to order the teacher devices.
Okay.
We can't. This isn't something that we can, push down the.
No, I'm not trying to push it out. I'm just thinking, as we get to that revolving program, maybe we start to refine it for that.
Oh, 100%. At that point, then you start even looking at, well, I've had so many requests to go to Google Classroom, so if that's the
Okay.
point, you know, maybe we look at even Chromebooks. A high-end, $300 Chromebook for a teacher is pretty high-end for a Chromebook, you know, so,
Well, let's
yeah.
go back to this, I mean, we approved $750,000 out of fund balance, and you're telling me I don't remember $500,000 being used to buy leases.
575 purchased the devices
Okay,
after
okay.
the leases.
Okay.
So
okay,
that,
okay.
that left us with 175,000,
Right.
and we're looking to spend 115,000 of that, which will leave us with 60,000.
And that's for projectors and
Or,
bullets
or,
and
or
whatnot.
students or whatever, but I still say we stick with the teacher thing right now.
So as the way that stands, we could populate all teacher devices.
Yeah.
Still have a little more left over in the kitty.
I'm telling you.
And I literally just was about to email Doug and ask if all
Yeah,
that's there.
We could literally do that.
Yeah,
The what?
Order them tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been
Yeah.
approved, this is board approved, so
we could have them out
let's get
bathroom.
them and roll them out so that these
Yeah, and
teachers
so-
are ready to go.
Well,
mean-
do we have to go back to the board with the cost of which devices that we're going to order?
I don't see.
We have approved $700,000.
For teacher devices.
Teacher devices.
Well, I'd like to run it by the board, just, I want everything
Can you
out
purchase
there. and-
Made over
It's
20.
gonna show up as a budget
Budget
amendment anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll get it.
Well, I think I'll add to the agenda tonight, if we have time,
That's fair.
what we discussed, and just, I'd really like to, I don't want any hidden agendas and stuff like that. But I understand what you're saying, and we do want equity with our teachers. So if this just kind of brings it a little bit, and then as we.
It meets in the
go-
middle, you
Yeah.
know, based off what we
Well,
spent
and then
before.
as we go through the 3-year cycles
I'm
of
telling you.
purchasing, then it will become.
Just gotta have a plan. That's all we're looking for, is just a plan that's consistent, that we can afford. That's not just something
I'm
we can afford.
actually looking for budget amounts.
That's what I'm looking for, is a dollar.
Right, and so then I want to talk about student devices. Do we know, you said we have 2,500, well, we purchased 2,500.
Of the Lenovo's.
Okay, I'm just throwing this out here, and you guys, my daughter-in-law is principal of a school in Reno. They are 1-to-1, but they're with Chromebooks. Now, she is pre-K through 8th grade. And she said to me the Chromebooks are sufficient for whatever they're doing in those grades.
And the only difference, and remember we talked about this last time, is that we have children that don't have internet at home. And when you take a Chromebook, but again, Chris and I will tell you, in our experience, if you just have classroom sets, and they don't have to worry about people hawking them or losing them, you know, then I think that's a good thing. And Chris, did you add the tracking software in that price?
That is, the
For
3-year
teachers?
warranty is on there, Absolute is not on there.
Because that's something, teachers lose stuff. I'm not trying to be, everybody loses stuff, but if a teacher was to lose something, we'd probably want to track it. What's the cost of that set?
It's like $62 a device.
Yeah, so that's something that if we bought the device, plus we want to track it to make sure, so that would, in my opinion, you would want that.
We haven't had to worry about that in the past because they got a desktop tied to their desk.
Yeah, so now
But-
they're gonna be able to take it home, which I would think they should need to be able
So
to.
do
do.
But
we
also-
have them on the other, we have that on the other teacher devices?
They do, and that's what I was about to say, to be devil's advocate to what he just said, is we've only lost 2 teacher
That was gonna be
devices.
my follow-up question was, over the last 3
Oh,
years.
Since 2016, we've lost 2.
Most teachers
That's pretty
don't
impressive.
take them
Well,
home.
and so when he says teacher devices, we have student devices have gone.
There's
we're
been,
not talking about-
there's been 6 student devices that we have not recovered out of the
That's it.
2,500.
Yeah,
That's pretty
Even
strong.
with the
Wow.
software.
We had some.
That,
big
well, we get
calls.
paid, we get reimbursed if they don't track
they
it,
can't
certain
find it, they
percentage.
just write us a check.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm just wondering if this is something, if with that few numbers of,
Just need the cost.
you know, because $62 per device, and
Yeah,
you
It's
only
expensive.
lost
No, like I
two,
said,
It, to
That's
me,
warranted.
yeah, to me,
Yeah.
it seems like, but, anyway, back to the student.
Mhm.
So, do you know how many Lenovo's we have?
Of the, that we have purchased and
Yeah,
not
not
titled,
Title One. We're
it's
not
20,
titled.
there's 2,500 of them.
2,500?
Of the Lebanese. There's, we're roughly, and me and Dave come up with this the other day, we're roughly about 300 as of right now of essentially the newer version of that model, the 100E. And that's really it when it comes to those. A lot of people have been buying Chromebooks, Title,
Okay,
all
how
of them
many
included.
Chromebooks do we, not Title, not not out of this school, but how many do we own?
See, and that, I don't have that exact number, because when we look at the Google admin console, it looks at them as a whole umbrella. It doesn't, they're not differentiated because
Did
of
we
the
not
signing.
ask
So
for that on that teacher
We-
request? that-
I don't think we asked for Chromebooks. We just asked solely teacher items on there. So we did, we asked for desktops and
No, when we
projectors.
asked for all of the school, what
Inventory.
every school inventory had, did we request Chromebooks?
We did not. We didn't ask for any student stuff. It was all.
Oh, that was the whole point of it. That's why I couldn't figure out the numbers when I looked at what you sent. I want to know how many devices we have.
I wrote down in my notes to ask for teacher, because we were talking about projectors and panels and TVs and
Okay, well,
stuff.
we need to know how many student devices that we own. We need to break down.
Non-title student
Yeah.
devices.
How many Chromebooks we have, how many Lenovo's we have, and because I'm thinking if we put together a 2-to-1 or package, that we start in the younger grades with the Chromebooks, because they're staying in school. We're not doing 1-to-1, they're staying in schools. And we start and use as many, and then when we get to the higher grades, then we start going to our Lenovo's. Is that
So you're
wrong?
thinking
or-
of Chromebooks more as a classroom set type thing?
Well, all of these will be classroom sets
Okay.
because we're going 2-to-1.
Okay.
So we don't have
Sure.
enough. So everybody's gonna be classroom sets.
And the only thing cost to think about is carts and charging stations, which they're not crazy, but we need to make sure we got, because we have some, and if we move them around, that all needs to be figured out in the equation, which Chris, make sure you got that in the notes.
Well, if that's what we wanna do, and go 2-to-1, then we have to know those figures, and we have to figure out where we're gonna put our Chromebooks, where we're gonna put our Lenovo's, and that type of thing.
So I've talked to Lori Brown in the past couple of weeks about how she just went and purchased a Chromebook cart for every single one of her teachers, except I think she's like 5, and she was gonna put them on next year's. I actually talked to her that said, what if we were to go 1-to-1, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 8 through 12? What happens to those Chromebooks that are now sitting in those high school classrooms? And she says, I actually have, unlike I guess Title, she has the ability to move them to another location that she has a CTE program in. So that kind of helps us out as well, because Central High School's got if you count hers, they've got almost 500 Chromebooks at that school. They're almost 2-to-1 with Chromebooks there, because the school has purchased about 340 or so, give or take, some that's been damaged. And then she's given 3 or 4 carts just this year of 30 in there.
Okay, let me ask you a question. The devices that the schools have purchased, not Title I
Right.
funds, but their own funds, that belongs to the school, county, or to the school?
So you're getting into some stuff, so let me just
Yeah.
explain to you. So every year, I have a parent that just asked me, and I am totally not being negative toward any kind of school, I'm just saying. So Central High School has bought how many devices? And they have certain budget numbers that, again, I'm not privy to, I don't know what their budget is, but they buy some devices. We have Spring Hill High School that doesn't buy anything. So they buy no devices ever. Every year we keep getting farther behind for them, which I can't help them only so much. And I get asked, I have a parent that's also a vendor saying, I want to know why you're not doing more for Spring Hill High School like Central, when Central's doing it themselves. How are they doing it? I don't know.
So they've I guess they get some grants from previous students that they bought some with. They have done some fundraising for some of their Chromebooks.
So part of what we're discovering with Chris and being able to put all this together is that maybe we need to help some other schools help themselves with some of this stuff. But, people buy things, and again, and I know Mr. Ford's had these questions too, that sometimes we're not clear on purchasing. People want the price they get is not as good as what they would like, but it's not explained to them. So sometimes people just go buy stuff, and we find out later, we show up, and they got 50 Chromebooks because they didn't like our price, they went and got them.
There's an elementary school that we thought only had 25 iPads that they purchased to us. They've got almost 100 because they've been buying them from Walmart. We didn't even know about
It
it.
usually ends up happening, you say, well, why don't we just buy from Walmart then? Well, what ends up happening is that there's other costs associated, and we don't find out until they say, hey, I want to print with this guy or whatever, but iPad not so much, but Chromebooks have a license. But this big equation and puzzle that we need to solve, we get a little more clear every day. Like when he says he doesn't have, we have numbers.
Yeah, I literally just pulled up a
Okay,
sheet.
well, okay, let me ask, so, the principal's here, so when you do your budgets, do you put those purchases in your budget? Because each school has their own budget, right?
Depends on what pot of money it comes out of.
I was gonna say, there's different pots of money here. It's not
If
easy.
it comes from fundraising or anything tied to just our site, we don't have to include that in our budgets.
And really, at least my experience for the last 3 years, every budget proposal I've been in has been like tied to the keys.
Yeah.
Correct.
Specifically.
That's
So
correct.
if I'm, you know, you can make a play for some devices and tie it to the keys, but
Well, college and career readiness would be one of them that I.
I guess I'm just saying, like. we
That's how
kinda go
Santa
with
Fe-
this hierarchy of needs
Yeah.
that would be attached to the keys.
I can tell you, I sent an email and I said, asked all the principals, can you tell me what you're buying using technology funds for? And I got a bunch of different answers. Some of them, like, I know you knew right off, but others were like, we don't have any technology money, and really you don't. It's actually not called technology, but like, what's it called? It's called classroom,
It's, hold on.
it's like class, but some don't use any money for that money for technology.
Okay, well, let me ask a question, because we're gonna get hit with this. If Mount Pleasant High School has 50 that they've fundraised, 50 devices that they've raised, done fundraise and stuff like that, and we are going to 2-to-1, can we take into consideration that they have those devices and give them 50 less than it would cost than it would take to go 2-to-1?
That's a question I'm not sure about, because I asked that same question to Scott Gaines about Central High School, is because they're being titled the past 2 years. They bought 86 Lenovo 11Es, and then they're buying another like 62
I'm not
this year.
talking
But
about
not title.
title.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Into the fundraising part.
Yeah, and he said from previous experience, the only way, the title is the only scenario that you can't take those numbers into consideration. Any other device you can take into
So do we have the
consideration.
ability to? We do. Is it fair? I'm not sure. I mean, if you have people, blood, sweat, and tears raising money, buy 60 Chromebooks, and I got other schools, not sure why, but do not.
Okay, for instance, McDowell,
I see your,
didn't they give every student, what's his face?
They did, Shaq Mason gave a
Okay,
tablet.
and those stayed with the school, right?
No.
Those go to
Those went
that kid
That
and go home.
student,
So they
okay.
have nothing, we have nothing to do with that.
No, no. And
so we
Braille,
can't count those. as
Braille
that.
did it last year.
But where we could get into, but just like when people use donors choose, in theory, a teacher puts out, this is what I need 4 iPads. She does the work, she gets them, we work with her. In theory, those are the school districts. They belong to the district, but they're assigned to her school.
It says it on their website.
But we have never, to my knowledge, I have never said, we gotta take them. But it gets, we probably just need to.
I just emailed Doug asking some
I'm
questions.
saying-
I mean, I have a question for the principals.
Yeah.
This is where I get sticky on this.
Okay.
Because my authoritarian self would be like, hey, they belong to the district, spread them out. However, I know that's gonna give some heartburn to people. So what do you principals say that? My thinking would be, if we were to look at total assets and actually do a fair job of distributing, get to a full 2-to-1, making sure everybody's getting what they need as far as that 2-to-1, and we have a plan in place to maintain that on a year-to-year basis. Am I guessing that the principals would be much more in favor of maybe taking the bullet this year, maybe you lose a couple of those devices in theory, or you didn't get the new ones, because knowing that once we spread it out this first year, there's a plan in place to do it every year. Does that make more sense? Because me, if I was a principal and we raised some money for these devices, I might have a hard time giving up on what we put our work into, unless there's a solid plan that this is actually addressed.
I think, transparent answer,
Mhm.
I think we're in a lose-lose situation. You're gonna have upset administrators and teachers either scenario. So you let schools, like our school, we've worked hard to fundraise and put things in place. We're far from 2-to-1 or 1-to-1, but we know what we've got, we know how to use it. So if we got less, I would say our team would be more acclimated to not be in a tizzy, so to speak. However, if that's taken away, you're looking at money that parents have put into the school for the kids there. You see what I'm saying? So other schools may not have that problem. So
I have a question. Are there any schools that have more than 2-to-1? That they've raised?
That we own,
Yeah.
not title funds.
Yeah, that they've raised the money for?
That they've raised the money for? No.
Title schools, we have
Title schools,
Not title, I'm not.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying no.
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 So
So
then,
everyone, we're gonna be giving them more computers.
yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say.
So I think that,
Well, and that's what, when we first started having these meetings, we got to mentioning possibility of 1-to-1 high school and then moving their Chromebooks 2-to-1 down to the lower, right? And
Yeah,
I
but-
kind of,
But that was $1 million something every year, and we're not gonna get that. So we have to, we've got to figure out what we have, and eventually I hope we can get there. But for the next, at least for the next 3 years, I would really like to see us be 2-to-1, they stay here, and, now I know,
we could do 7 through 8 2-to-1
You
with just the
like
2,500,
Top Snow School, who gets a
260.
lot of title funds and has a lot of devices, we're obligated, if we give, 50 to another school, we have to give them 50 too.
I
So there's a
understand.
chance they're more than 2-to-1, they could be almost 1-to-1.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
But we cannot count title,
No,
so we're
that's
not
not-
counting title
yeah.
at all. But yes, we understand, if you give, if you go, you have this many students and these will get you 2-to-1, but also you have 100 students, you have 50 devices at your school, we're gonna give you, or you have 200 students, you have 50 devices at your school, we're gonna give you 50 more, and then you'll be 2-to-1. We can do that. And if you have 100 Title I devices, then you're 1-to-1, and that's fine too.
Yeah, and so I think just setting up whenever we get clear direction, like so if you tell us, hey, if they fundraise and it's not title, we can move it, include it in our
I don't want to
numbers.
take it away from them.
I think maybe, because we need to get a really strong implementation plan first.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because things are gonna snowball out
Ju-
of control, lots of
just like
different
the Thames
directions.
River.
So I'm thinking what you're saying, because somewhere along here, we talked about putting into place, I think I heard correctly, like a 3-year rotation.
That's correct,
So
yeah.
I think a fair way to look at this would be, okay, we get a spreadsheet like we get for our budget, so you have your Excel document, every school is listed at the bottom, right? And you have like existing devices, not title related, and then how many holes do we need to plug? So like my school, we may need 50 to get to 2-to-1. That's fine. Ryan's school may need 150.
Well, he's more
So,
than.
just stick with me, that's just an example,
Yeah.
just an example,
Yeah.
hypothetical. So then, the schools that get less would be the first schools on that 3-year rotation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The schools that get a full slate going out, so to speak, would be like 6 years out, or whatever that ends up being. The schools that get the less amount, because those devices that are already in place are probably gonna go out quicker. Does that make sense?
It does.
I think we gotta maybe think about it like, okay, here's year 1, but we need to think about almost like a 6-year plan. That would get us through the first 3-year rotation.
But
That's
let
gonna
me-
take some work.
Let me key in on that plan.
Yeah.
So, logistical issue I'm seeing is, and kind of tie it into your question that you asked. Mount Pleasant High School, 3.5 years ago, when the diploma initiative was announced, and we chased it, we went after it. Nothing was given to us. It was an expectation that every teacher was going to start adapting their practice because we wanted those devices. They bring in that TIMS rubric inspired team. Every teacher is being looked at. We end up getting the devices, all right? Here we are 3.5 years later. Now you're talking about going 2-to-1. I rationalized that in my brain as we've had it good for 3 years, although we earned those devices. They were not given to us, we earned them. But we've had it good. If it creates equity, I will sell my team on the fact that we're taking it on the arm for the team. My concern becomes, if you're taking these devices that are now 3.5 years old, right? And we're gonna give 50% of them somewhere throughout the district. I mean, I got 401 kids in my school as of today, right? So you're gonna give, we got a little more devices than that. Let's say we give 210 back to the district. You're gonna take these devices that are 3.5 years old and disperse those sporadically throughout the district, it just gets into our turnaround time. So now how are we monitoring, how is Chris tracking? Well, remember, that's one of those Mount Pleasant 3.5-year-old pieces.
Throw a yellow sticker on it.
That may fall off. I'm just saying.
No, yeah.
I don't even know school by school, it's just, man, it's gonna get.
It's gonna take a plan.
The only
plan.
fault in that logic, Ryan, is that there are other schools in the district, mine, for example, have pursued things just as aggressively. Third and fourth grade qualified for diploma certification, there were not enough devices, so third grade and fourth grade went without. Fourth grade got devices the first 2 years for half a year. They were taken back for whatever, right? We worked through that gnashing of teeth, but third grade has gone 4 years now qualified with no devices in hand. So my team, again, I can coach them, as you said, with your team, but you're going to have other schools in a similar boat that may create some angst and some undue stress. So, you know, I don't know.
Which part? The angst, because we're giving up the devices. I mean, I've laid the seeds in my staff, we're going 2 to 1. I mean, we
Yeah.
understand that. I don't think you're gonna hear an outcry from even the community necessarily. There may be some ruffled feathers, but
Yeah.
hey, if it's for us being a school system,
The key being that there's a solid plan to maintain moving
So
forward.
that's what
I
I'm
think
trying
that
to
gets-
say.
I think
I
that
think
gets both
initially
sides.
we're probably
It
gonna
hits
be,
both sides,
yeah, initially we're probably gonna be a little bit like everything's everywhere. But then knowing, moving year after year, it's gonna get to where, guess what, we're 3 years in, everybody's on the same page, it's the same, and things are gonna change. Here's something crazy, you know, even with diploma, when we first start going, we know we're 8 months in, all of a sudden they're like, hey, that device you got, we're not making that anymore, but we upgraded it, it's the same price.
right.
So
I
there's
just
all
wanted to put it
kinds
on
of
our
stuff.
radar. We're gonna
Yeah.
have 200 plus devices that are 3.5 years old,
But
Yeah.
matriculating throughout the district.
So my suggestion for that is when we get ready to give those out, we have, like, we know we have 3.5-year-old devices at Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
So then we have a school, we have 250, so we're looking for a school that needs 250 devices or around that, and we make sure that we know that those devices
Oh, yeah.
are 3.5 years. So when we start replacing, we'll replace schools, a whole set of devices at schools as they age out.
So, going back to the road, listen, I've been trying to Google other districts and what they've been doing for the past couple of months
Sorry
or
to
so.
make it hairy, man.
No, just,
It's valid.
when we're talking about rotations and having that 3 or even 4-year plan, I even spoke with the Apple rep today, just as an example, not saying we're going to Apple, but they do 4-year leases because of this type of scenario. They've had districts adapt it by starting at the lower grade, 5th at middle, 9th at high school, them going 1-to-1, pushing whatever devices they had in those up to those other grades, and each year buying those devices for that next grade level, or that moving up and then buying more devices for that 9th or 5th grade coming in. So technically in 4 years they were 1-to-1. I don't know if maybe that's something we try to look at on the 2-to-1 aspect, is verify that all of our 9th grade classes and all of our 5th grade, for example, not leaving elementary out, those are, because I'm not sure where we'd start there, but maybe we start and say, look, they're definitely 2-to-1. In 4 years, the whole school will be 2-to-1, technically, but those other devices get pushed up.
I understand what you're saying, but what I am proposing is that we are across the board 2-to-1, starting with this budget.
Just
So
starting right now, okay.
every school, every grade level.
Every school, every grade level. And I think that we can do that. If I remember what we looked at before, was, you know, going 2-to-1 and then eventually going 1-to-1. But what I'd like to see is a 3-year plan for 2-to-1 throughout the district, and what the cost, and how many devices we would need. Now, I'm saying, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, that we could do Chromebooks from first grade through 5th grade, 4th grade, maybe just in the elementary, do Chromebooks?
K1, when you start looking at pedagogy and instructional practice, they're gonna prefer an iPad just because of the developmental appropriateness of that device. But if you can get touchscreen Chromebooks that have the same capabilities, you can probably make it work. I'm just saying the pushback you may get from teachers.
In their districts, not to be a devil's, there are people that buy Samsung tablets for their lower grades, or just a touch, not this guy.
Is there a big cost discrepancy there between the
$377 for an iPad right now. That's a, they,
versus the 5 something we'd be talking?
well, I mean, student devices, we're looking more along the lines of 300 or so for a Chromebook.
Yeah, so it's a little more expensive.
So it is, but that's 3 year, that's case,
So
that's
teacher and
MDM.
student, we're looking at
So-
different amounts because of the amount teacher presented.
Don, to get to your point, and this, I hate to keep going back to this, but I think from a language standpoint, we gotta go away from talking about count of devices and stick with just a 2-to-1 and a total budget number.
Yeah.
You guys figure out what that makes up, because we start to get into count and it starts getting, you sit on the board with me,
Yeah,
it gets fuzzy.
yeah, I don't want to do.
I just wanna
agree
know,
with you.
does creating a 2-to-1 system is gonna cost X?
So we start at the top and we
I
say,
don't wanna care about, y'all figure the rest
Right,
out.
but we want the
Yeah.
principals to see what we're doing too, because I'm a big fan of, here's the rules, this is what we're doing, and if this doesn't work, we will change.
Sure.
But you don't call me on the phone and I say, I'm not sure. Like, why did, so everybody understands what I'm trying to do.
So, real quick question, because keep in mind, I know we've got some title devices, but understanding that that's a cycle too. At some point, those are gonna cycle out of life. Am I assuming correctly that if we have a solid plan in place and we have a 2-to-1 plan, we would stop using title funds to purchase
Right.
devices?
I asked him that. I said, at
And
that
actually,
point,
as a district start, that's part of our procedures here, is that we're gonna stop spending money on title money on those things and put them in other places, because all of a sudden, over a 3-year cycle, a 4-year cycle, we've got rid of that big discrepancy. As those devices are gonna fall off, and we're no longer dumping more money into them, I think that puts some nice parity across the district too, for the schools that are not titled, that are like, what the heck, these kids they got 2 devices per every student.
but- and I told him that, I said, at that point, you can start focusing more on the other, requests that title schools have of the little Osmo devices or the coding
That's
devices,
fine.
things like that.
And we looked at purchasing.
And that would clearly be
Title
part
comes
of
around.
the program, as we codify this for all the schools. I mean, does that make sense? Does everyone else?
Well, I said the same thing to Lori too, the CTE was, at that point, you're buying stuff for docs, or you're buying your specialty Macs for your coding, or, at that point, you're not having to buy these 30 carts of Chromebooks, so.
Well,
Okay, cool. So we
Yeah.
can settle.
And I also want to say that I was talking to somebody and they said, well, Lawrenceburg is 1-to-1. And I said, they are? They said, yeah, they have a set in every class, one for each kid in every class. So that's not truly 1-to-1, because basically,
When it rotates through.
It's the same problem we have in labs right now, yeah, it's.
well, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. When you have 2 teachers that have a class set of devices, then they are actually, every child in their class on certain days will have those. That's what I see happening, like 3 days a week or 2 days a week. Each teacher has 2 days a week that her kids have that device.
So I guess my logic is, again, I get into language on this, because for me, I focus less on the 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. If the goal of the district is that at any time in any classroom, a child in Murray County Schools has access in their class to a device, whatever that works out to be is what the goal is. Does that make sense? So we're kind of getting beyond the
If you just want to look at a number, I mean,
2-to-1 or
we have
1-to-1.
13,000 students, we should have 6,500 devices.
But that makes it, in my mind,
Yeah.
easier to
I don't know what those
understand. If a student comes to school and they don't have access to a device for a class that day, then we're not meeting what the goal is of what the district is, which is to have them have access.
So being redundant, but what do you want from us to be able to take to the board? If we're talking about teacher devices, like, let's get on this.
Okay, the teacher devices we have,
So you want us to go and say, here's what we're gonna get, here's the cost with everything we know?
absolutely. I'll bring it up today
Yeah.
and tell them that we talked about it. We're talking, we need 160 teacher devices at $562 each. That's 115,000. And of the 750,000 that we voted on, allocated, we should have 175 left after the purchase of the,
They can get, he's,
Yeah.
I got it.
he's got it, not Chris.
so we can go ahead and purchase the devices, so every teacher will have a laptop
Excellent.
beginning of.
And moving forward, that is no longer any part of the student side of this at all.
No.
That is just equipping our teachers with the equipment, just like, just like
Desks,
the boards,
chairs,
chairs, anything else.
So is that where we give that 33% number each year and do a 3-year
So,
thing?
yes, we'll look at it at
That's
the
again, a
budget.
separate discussion. That's a budget-wise, that is just like lights on,
I agree.
everything else.
I would love to see a line item in the budget for teacher devices for 160,000 every year.
And then the additional 60,000, you tell us what needs to be done with that. Projectors, light bulbs.
So if we're going to panels, and we talked about, I know some board members voted like, some people have, we got new schools, they got panels in there, and we got other schools that are fighting for
Ask
bulbs.
the teachers what they want.
What I suggest that you guys, Chris, put together a proposal
For what to do
of
with additional.
what is needed where, just like,
Don't give us options.
Don't
Yes.
get-
Just say,
It's 2 options, just pop, yeah.
Don't give us options, say, these are
Yeah.
the tools our teachers need.
Yeah,
Yep.
and this is,
Trust me.
yeah.
That's how you do
Here's the
this.
lowest price, or not necessarily the lowest price, what we need.
So you got
Because again, the vote. we
so
took
you
was
got
the
everything written down, so we
supplies,
talk about it, I said, Chris, I don't remember what was said, you got it.
So
That's honesty.
So you got
That is honesty.
$60,000 to figure out what we can give
And
teachers.
just full disclosure, so like my budget still has, because once you go to a school and you say how many teachers you got, it never fails, attendance clerks, bookkeepers, people are not included, and I'm like, I said, well, they're not teachers, but I support, out of my budget, I have money to keep that kind of going. We buy parts, I have parts to keep things going, and we take care of, nurses, all that stuff, there's no nurses in there, we take, out of my budget, we can handle that.
Okay, so the teacher's
That's still
number
fine,
is.
I just wanted you to know, in case you, hey, well, Tommy, why are we buying these? Because I'm buying attendance clerks,
Okay.
laptops.
All right, so,
That's what actually I was gonna
Yeah,
talk about, the
um,
60. We're gonna dots and stuff.
so we're good with teachers. You're gonna figure out.
So do you want me to just do a top level view of the 2-to-1 and just say this would be the cost if we were to go 2-to-1 right now across the board? Or do you want me to subtract out the devices that they currently have? Or do both? Say, because, I mean, just off the top of my head, we'd need, for Hampshire, all the unit schools, high schools, 1,762 devices would put us at 2-to-1 in 9 through 12 right now.
Okay, and how many does the
Put a
school
dollar
have?
figure to it.
Pardon?
I mean, I just need as a board member, I just need a dollar figure.
I know, but
Yeah.
what I want to know is how many do they have at the individual school? Okay,
So you do want me to subtract the ones they currently have now?
yeah,
Okay. I didn't know if we were tying into what Dr. Jackson said about the 3-year,
$4,000.
Because some
Moving
stuff we're
it
gonna
in.
have to,
well, you're gonna have to track those devices.
we are, it's gonna be,
But-
initially it's gonna be,
And that's what he's talking about. But if he has 50 devices and he needs 200 to go 2-to-1, or 50 to go 2-to-1, we're only gonna give him 50 because he already has
Okay.
50. So all of these schools, and I appreciate that they did fundraising, but we're gonna spread this across 2-to-1, and we're gonna need that to do. And if we end up with more, and we own more than, and we can go further, then those schools that have their own devices and that have raised the money and done that, then we'll give them as many as we have left to let them have more. Does
Especially
that make
because
sense?
those are already coming off in the cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
So what were the cost of these? I know those.
Are we back to the $1.2 million a year number we originally talked about?
Oh, close.
that-
So 1,762, you just take an average of $400 because iPads are so much. These were $370, $380, something like that. So I just said 400. That's 704,000. So you can say $700,000 would get us 2-to-1 at an average.
For year one.
But that
That's not-
1762 is just high school.
That's what I'm.
1762 is
Yeah.
just high school.
4 years.
Yeah.
but we gotta start somewhere, so again, we can run through some stuff and bring you back some numbers, and Chris can say here's, and you guys, but, obviously teachers are wanting to get that, I think we got that solid, the student thing's gonna get.
We're good with the teachers. What I want with the students is you're gonna have to find out how many devices every school has.
And then
That we own,
have that.
not title funds. that we own.
We have a close, I think we have a close number.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a,
We
I've
go back to
got,
directory, everybody's logged in, and we got a number. Then it's find out what they are. That's a
Okay.
little harder.
Including the ones that they've purchased.
I've got a number, but it has title included, so I'm gonna have to go through and
Yeah.
pull that out,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, no title.
Gotcha. So
But
you
the
just-
ones that.
How many does Hampshire have? How many Central have? How many Spring have? We have that.
This
Now,
is-
if
this was
we
last
can
year.
update it, we probably work on it for the next meeting, because it changes daily, but
Okay, and that's my question, because if he purchased 20, if he did a
We-
fundraiser and he purchased 100, do you have that number?
so what happens is, we may not know it when they get them, but eventually when our techs do the visit and we get a phone call, hey, what's going on? We got 100 here, and then when he add them.
That goes back to the elementary school where we bought an MDM to be able to remotely manage Apple devices. And we went there, they only had like 20, and the techs were like, nah, each classroom has like 6. And we're
Yeah,
like,
it's like, hold on.
where'd you get those from? Oh, we can buy them too from Walmart. So it's just like,
But, so we're gonna give you the best count, the best of our ability, say, here you
Yeah.
go with a
Yeah.
plan, that may or may not vary one way or the other, and then at least we got somewhere to start.
Yes.
That's all I
But
say.
I'll say again, as far as, and I'm not trying to hide from the board, but numbers, we just need that budget
I'm with you.
number.
I understand that, but we also need to know what we want to do.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
know, so if we all agree that we want to go 2-to-1 throughout the district,
Yes.
then we have to have a plan on how we get there. And we have to know what we have first, and then what we need to get there. That's what I'm trying to
Yes,
figure
I
out.
agree.
You know, in addition to my earlier comment, if we get into that equity conversation, you know, do you run into, well, you know, we needed 100 devices, roughly, Mount Pleasant had 100 to give up. But man, we got these 3.5-year-old devices, and they got the new, I mean, somebody's gonna have to
I mean,
to
I
answer
don't
that.
think, I get a new phone, and somebody, a teacher at school gets a phone, and we go install a brand new phone, and next thing I know, I get phone calls. It's not, you can't solve it. It's gonna happen. Hey, how come they got it? When am I gonna get a new phone? Like, their phone was not functioning. Your
Well,
phone's still working.
hopefully what we can do with that is,
And
if we
again-
know how old they are, that we put it in the budget, that every year we're gonna spend this much money on new devices, and we do a 3-year rotation.
So by a certain amount of time, everybody's gonna be
The plan
equivalent.
puts out a lot of those fires.
I think so.
on the front
And
end.
again, full disclosure, here's the plan, this is what we're doing, year 1, this is what we're doing, 2, 3,
We're
and
aware
it's
of how
fine.
old it is, this is when you
Yeah,
guys
they're
can
getting brand new
re-up.
devices this year, but in next year, you're on the list.
That's right,
for
and then
next
the year
year.
after this, and
Your
then,
school being a good example, within 3 years, just like everybody else, you're gonna have brand new devices.
Mhm.
Even though you're now 2-to-1, but you are gonna have brand new devices for every one of them in the
Yeah.
next 3 years of rotation.
Right.
if you
But we
don't
have to stick to that part of it.
Yeah.
can't defund it. Yeah.
And I'm gonna muddy the waters a little bit more, just out of respect for Tommy and his crew, because how many people have you got in your department?
Believe it or not, and we got 15 now, my hobbies,
So do you feel like if we do this, is that enough to support all the schools?
It's all hypothetical, I can't tell you no, because I mean, we've actually, believe it or not, it's a lot more work working on these older devices that we have now. It's like it's a daily chore, so I don't even know.
So I guess what I was getting at, we may have to think about, eventually, we may need more
Right.
positions, because they do stellar work, but there's only 15, and we're looking at
That
how
was
many
part of what I was
devices.
trying to figure
God
out.
help us
But
if
that's
we have
what
to
we-
put
that was
another
Chris,
person in
right?
central office. It's already top heavy, we already know this.
We're responsible, so
That
here's,
was
hey,
Chris, right?
No.
Even though we're 6.9%,
even
even
though
though it's across
the math I did last, each one of my staff's responsible for 1,037 devices individually, every single day. And I don't work on them directly, but that would be if you took every device and split it
That's
up.
about 15.
That's me included in that number.
Yeah.
Working on them,
A lot of
yeah.
Apple devices.
Yeah, so, but, again, and that's why I tell people I can't give you an honest
Well,
answer.
and
It might be a godsend.
Just on the back of our brains, maybe,
Yeah.
that's
Right,
all I'm
and-
saying.
And that,
But are they?
that's something that we
That's-
can,
that's
once
really good.
we see that we absolutely need that, that's something that we'll have to.
Yeah.
And again, this is why I keep going back to that big
Mhm.
number, because that big number may include a staff position. And I'm less saying that 2 devices, I don't want people saying that it's gonna be $700,000, divide that by, X number of students,
Right.
and say, well, how come they're so expensive? No, this is a budget to meet the needs.
That's correct.
And we were just talking
We
about
can
that.
afford it. Here's what it
If
is.
we
Make it
have
work.
400 title devices in this district, there's a cost to maintain those.
They're not
They're not covered under title funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, these are real costs.
Or
But I mean,
the
that's my
default
point,
to
that's
that.
the reason I keep going back to the dollar and not let people try to hyper focus on this is 600 devices or 1,000 devices.
Right.
Don't try to start dividing that. Well, you're paying too much per device. No, this is bigger than that. This is a line item to cover the needs of meeting the goal.
So basically,
The
in
software
my
that you need
report
that Walmart
to the
doesn't
board,
include.
I'm gonna tell them that they are, Chris and Tommy are working on a plan to go 2-to-1 across the county and what it will cost us to do that.
To do that.
Plus have a 3-year revolving cycle in
Yes,
order to
exactly.
replenish
And
them.
the details, they,
Yeah.
Like I said,
With an asterisk
I'm all about
that says
details, just let's write it
Mount
down, so
Pleasant High
everybody
School
can
is
see what we're doing.
graciously giving.
Well, I mean, if we talk about just taking the 260s we've got right now, we could go 2-to-1, 8 through 12, with just those Lenovo, I'm sorry, 11Es, those Lenovo 11Es. 8 through 12 right now, 2-to-1.
With
Yeah.
what we've already got.
With what we've already got, with just those Lenovo's. We're not talking about what schools have, what they've been donated, or none of that, you know. So if we start including that, then we're looking even 7th, 6th.
I want to go
Yeah.
I want to go at least 2nd grade, and I don't know how you feel about 1st grade. Or
I
if-
say K-12. If you ask my opinion.
Okay, I am
And,
asking
and he's
you.
getting into a problem we have, and he did discuss it earlier, there are lower levels and iPads and devices that are different.
Okay.
But let's get started. you know, first.
K-12.
I'm with you.
I want to do K-12. Then we don't have anybody
So-
going, well, how come that school got?
No, I'm with you.
why, just because, I mean, we're gonna have some board members that will give pushback on any devices below 4th grade. That's good, that's what we've had in the past. I'm assuming we're gonna continue to have some board members that talk to this parent, the parent thinks that they have devices.
Yeah, but then they get to 4th grade and they have no idea how to even turn the thing
You know,
on.
but I wanna be about this, and I'll be, to be frank,
I-
Don't know if that's a concern.
For the
I tell you what, the big
kids
hard
that don't
part
have
here
to.
really is going to be the plan. And I know that, Mr. Ford, you touched on this, having all of this laid out
Okay.
and how we're doing it, frankly, is a lot of work, and it may be bigger than, well, we may need to really figure out how to get all that in writing, and I don't know if we steal it from another district,
No,
but that really is the heart, it's gonna
You gotta
answer
be
those
right.
questions.
We have to. If it-
It's going to make sure that we're not just putting a device in the hand of a 2nd grader, we have a plan and a reason why we're putting it in the hand of a 2nd grader.
And how is it maintained,
Here's
how
gonna
is
be
it
used,
nurtured,
maintained,
all that needs to be written
and
down.
I think that will
And,
clarify
and
a lot.
also, in addition to that, they have a great, what do you call your plan for how, what each
Or
grade?
school 3-year strategic plan.
No, what each child, like 1st grade, they need to know how to do these things.
Utilization of the device?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
They have a great plan for elementary school.
I think we're gonna need that
I mean, I think
across
it's
the
great.
board.
Well, I was gonna say something we might need to consider. It's just like if you get on the topic of textbooks. A frustration teachers have had, I've been in this district for 11 years. So a frustration teachers have had in the past with textbooks. We get the textbook with no training. It's the same thing. You don't just, here teacher, here's your class set of devices. There's a pedagogical approach that goes with that. There's an instructional shift that has to happen in the classroom. Teachers are going to need that training. They're going to need that support. So there needs to be an arm in our plan of professional learning. How are we going to train teachers to switch,
I got 3 parts of that.
or how are we going to help them? I'm just saying,
No,
this is
you're right.
this is a real.
So I'm not
thing.
gonna talk down on certain
That's why
vendors,
versus
right?
critical.
I'm not gonna talk down on certain vendors here, but I've had 3 vendors reach out to say literally, Google being one of them, that if you buy Chromebooks from us, here's a free PD extension that gives the teachers badges on how to use the Chromebooks, the tools, or whatever. Apple's done said, listen, if you buy this many, I will come and do a PD for your teachers for certain days. Dell, I've got a thing with the technology teachers and librarians that it's literally Dell gave us 4 free days that starts next Monday and Tuesday. Those 3 have always said, listen, we will come out and do what we need to do to help you and your teachers.
So
We just-
sometimes the
nobody knew it was
cost
there.
is not everything you're gonna get. Sometimes we're bound by a contract cost, but it's the extra stuff we can get, PD being one of them.
That's huge.
That
Yes,
is,
it is.
so you've got 2 vendors, hey, guess what, same cost, but we're coming to do a training, we're going with you. And then we go back to them and say, hey, they're giving us 3 days training, how about you give us 5? Maybe we'll consider buying me, it's all state contract, and even Doug's told me, I don't care, you can do that, it's up to you, you're following all the rules, what can we get for us?
Okay, well, you guys put that together and figure out what, your
Why y'all
best
laughing?
option is.
Present us with the numbers.
This is
That's his
devices,
job.
this is staff, this is training, PD. we're back to my 1.2. I promise you, when we're done with this, we're gonna be where I said. we were.
Probably so.
We will.
And that's the number that we had before.
Yeah.
But we really, just to implement, we
Sure.
need to get,
Jump started, and then
Yeah.
I think the number goes down, but I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
Initially, it's a shock. We've been putting it off.
but I'd like to, if it's possible, we would like to have, and I think all of us on the board would like to have that figure for our budget when we're looking at
Yes,
our
we're gonna
budget.
need it.
With the plan.
The cost of the plan to do this and get,
Because I plan to push it, personally, it's important thing for me that the students have access to how to use these lessons, because that's what we're in the world.
and
And we've got to be able to have that number to work that in and make it, it's going to be a hard time, but that's what we got to do to make it fit.
would you mind if I printed out that, your plan, what, I think it would be important to the board to realize what the kids in first grade, what they're gonna do with their devices.
Absolutely.
You know, in second grade, what they're gonna do with their devices.
If we like used it just as an example, not like the
Right.
plan, I think that's dangerous.
No, I get it. I'm
Just an
not saying,
example
yeah.
of what possibilities are. I'm
And
fine with that.
Apple rep today talked about how a county in Kentucky has a digital backpack that the students are given that says, hey, this is what we want you to learn on this device over the course of your elementary, middle, and high school year. And they actually taught, the board comes and asks them questions about what they learned about at their 8th grade year, their 5th grade year, their 8th grade year, and their 12th grade year on those devices. So I'll reach out to them and see what that kind of plan includes as well.
And last thing, and Mr. Ford doesn't even know about this, we're actually doing a proof of concept with some software called ClassLink, and what this does, you know how everybody says, how much are they using? What are they doing? This actually, it creates a dashboard for the kid. They log in, it makes it easier for the elementary kids to log in. There's like 5 different ways to log in, with a pad, a pen. Anyway, the whole moral is that it tracks everything they do, every software package, and when you say, hey, what is 4th grade class doing? I click a button and say, here you go. And it will give you all of it.
And the-
instantaneous.
And this is where we try to tie in Kara and Beverly, is it also has to be approved before they add a program
to the
to that
board.
or an app to that. Well, right now with Clever, they just add whatever they want to do or whatever they can add to it. So that's something else we.
And the best thing is we're getting rid of other software packages.
Because there's a lot of parents who are like,
Hey, guess what? Parents got-
There's a whole parent portal.
They got their own, parents log into it too, you can log into your.
See how long they've been on
And we're getting rid
that.
of some other software packages that, like we try to every 3 years to evaluate, we think we can get rid of those software packages that we use now and pay for this with the
This
disk.
starts to address the issues the parents I've talked to, that,
Well-
why, what do we do with this? I don't know what they're doing, they have it. This starts to
So-
really give us the tools to address it.
Once we get 2 to 1, then that kind of comes into the next part of it, in my mind, is the issue, is that cell phone usage at school. Currently, we're augmenting, those devices are augmenting these.
Oh, yeah.
So then we can say, you know, your phone has to go in the box. And we have to have a policy,
And you know what,
a board
even-
policy, so that we can address this on a board level, because cell phones being used in class aren't being used in class for educational
I'll be
purposes.
frank, this is a huge way to sell this to staff,
Yeah.
and I think other board members too, to be honest, that the goal here is once we are relying on devices, cell phones get put up.
Yep.
You know, and we need to train our teachers how to deal with it. Some of them do not know, some do better than others. And the whole thing of it is, we have expectations of them to be able to handle it. Some of them can, some of them can't, but we need to have some kind of training for all of them that says, hey, either set your phone face down, it's not in your pocket texting people, or in a box. I don't know.
We need
Not
to
to get
take
into the weeds, one thing that's worked really well for us, and it's a life hack, essentially. A lot of our teachers have bought the transparent shoe holders.
Yeah,
So, and it's cool psychologically, because the kids can still see the phone. I know it sounds.
right, it's not gone, I can see.
The kid can still see the phone,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's
that's-
not on their person,
Yeah.
right? You know, John Welch is one of my old school teachers, it works really well for him, but a handful of teachers at Mount Pleasant have gone with that model, and it really
And
works.
being 1-to-1, obviously that's where we want to be.
Welch
Yeah.
actually uses it now as like attendance, so I take your
If your
attendance.
slot's empty.
It's a
So, slot 17 is empty, even though they're sitting right there. It's like, well, guess I know it sounds funny, but it's.
No,
That's
that
awesome.
is,
But I think this is, the 2-to-1 really is key, and that's part of our, as we move as a district, we move that direction, that we
Yeah.
now dial back the cell phones.
Yeah.
I think that'll make a lot of teachers happy, but they, there's other pieces we probably need to consider looking at, making sure they have the tools to
well, you got,
properly manage the classroom.
not only they get it, but you gotta maintain it, you gotta come, you gotta send smoke signals, you gotta do braille, you gotta send emails, and you gotta do face to face. It takes all that. And
You know,
gotta
first year we did it, I had a better than average ISS guy. As you guys know, those positions are paid pretty lowly, but this guy was better than average. He's not with us anymore. But I could put him on Impero, right? And man, he could shut down apps, he could communicate with kids, you're not supposed to be looking at that. I mean, that first year was.
I may or may not do that every now and then.
You
Rain
just
just pull it
blow
up
it
and
line.
Slap it
You know.
from the sky.
Yes. He tries to bring the app back up.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
All right, I gotta go eat
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Did anybody take minutes?
It's 6.
I,
You talking about recording it?
No, minutes.
I didn't, I mean, I've got some notes about what they told me to do.
If you upload it, you can watch it, I guess.
Progress was all.
we just kind of,
I'll write my notes down.